crazy. They tell me I'm crazy. I'm not crazy. They tell me I'm crazy, but I'm not crazy. They tell me I'm crazy, but I'm not crazy. They tell me I'm crazy, but I'm not crazy. They tell me I'm crazy, but I'm not crazy. I'm not crazy. They tell me I'm crazy, but I'm not crazy. They tell me I'm crazy, but I'm not crazy.
What's going on, guys? Welcome to 31 Days of Horror. I am Morgan Film Fan. Let's jump into some scares. Asylum Blackout is a film that came out in 2011, and this premiered at Midnight Madness at the Toronto International Film Festival. Now, if that didn't sell me automatically, one of the main baddies in this film is Richard Brake, and this film was also written by S. Craig Zoller, who was responsible for writing and directing the films Bone Tomahawk, Brawl in Cell Block 99, as well as Dragged Across Concrete. So Craig Zoller certainly knows what he's doing in the writing department. That's hands down. And then you throw in the premiere at Midnight Madness on top of on top of all of that. Well, this is definitely a film that I had to jump on for this 31 Days of Horror. Now, with that being said, every once in a while you will discover a film that you are expecting to go one way and it completely goes another way. Now, I was expecting an extremely violent and very gritty, over the top with the gore, splatterfest essentially, where you have this insane asylum where you have these employees working security, whatever it may be, and then for whatever circumstances a power outage happens, and then we have mayhem ensuing from a bunch of mentally insane people attacking the employees and whoever else, and just absolute mayhem ensuing, like a pit of carnage goodness, basically. And that's what I went into this film expecting. And then when I put it on, first thing I noticed is that there's some really weird, like, jazzy punk music playing, and then the title card comes up and it totally feels like a slapstick horror comedy, kind of. And I was just like, I'm not really feeling what I'm getting compared to what I thought I was going to get. You know what I mean? However, albeit this film is not a complete mess with what it decides to do, because it doesn't go horror comedy per se, although I will mention right off the bat that every time it tries to be funny, it just doesn't land, at least for me as an audience anyway. And I think this film should have definitely stuck to its horrific roots and definitely amped up the gore and amped up the violence, in my opinion, especially for a title like this one. I mean, Asylum Blackout, come on. And you have Richard Brake thrown in here, and this guy knows how to be terrifying without saying a word. Fortunately, in this film, he does play a silent character, so he does not utter a word, which is actually a very good choice in the directing department and the writing department with Craig Zoller as well. If you've seen him in anything, you know that smile, those eyes, are stuff you do not want to see outside of your worst nightmares. Let's just put it that way. I just couldn't get around the pacing on this one, though. It started off, it's not even that long of a film. It's only an hour and 24 minutes we got going on here. But I would say approximately 45 minutes is pretty much just build-up. And what happens is we have this basically culinary crew who prepares meals for this insane asylum. And they are also a rock band. So on their side gig, pretty much, they practice for gigs and they practice music. And you can tell there's a little bit of sense that they are very close, but they're kind of there's a lot of tension going on, especially with our main character named George. George recently started, or I don't know if it was recently, but it's said that he's getting into a romantic thing with this woman named Lynn. And I'm not sure if it was on and off, or I'm not sure if it was something that he just decided that he wanted to settle down with and kind of put the band on the back burner kind of thing. You can tell there's a little bit of tension with the whole band and music scenario. However, Max was given a job by George to be a culinary chef at this insane asylum, and they basically cook for the inmates. And you can tell George is hella overworked because throughout the first act of the film, he's very snappy. He is always on a loose thread. He's it doesn't take too much to aggravate this guy, and he's just basically lacking a lot of sleep. And now you add in a bunch of violent people who are not stable in the head. This just kind of aggravates him to not necessarily a breaking point, but to a level where he just needs some damn sleep. And then randomly, in the middle of one evening, the power, of course, goes out, and this causes all the insane inmates to basically be let loose and let free, and they start creating mayhem and havoc. Now, this is where the film was good, but not great. And it even, I'll go as far as to say it was great in certain points of it. You have this entire facility filled to the hilt with all these, crazy people who, I mean, there's tons of them. And when they almost act like rage zombified kind of danger in numbers style. And I loved that element. They just didn't go there. There's so much to do with this kind of plot. And when you get to the final 20 minutes, you'll know exactly what I mean, because you see men being cooked alive. You see our main character, George, being sliced to death while being completely rubbed in oil. And by the way, I do want to mention this actor who plays one of the inmates at this thing, who's rubbing our main character with oil. I forget his name, but I do apologize. I looked it up because as soon as I saw him on screen, he's playing one of the most terrifying villains that competes with Richard Brake. And I just found out after looking up his name that this fellow passed away, unfortunately, this year, last month, sometime in the beginning of August, which is extremely unfortunate. And I just wanted to mention that because him giving this phenomenal performance and me just discovering this film very recently and looking him up and realizing that he unfortunately passed so recently and so sudden, very unfortunate, but tribute to him because he really plays a memorable one, let me tell you. So overall, I think this film had quite a bit of potential, and it delivered on that potential, I would say, in the third act, but it's just one of those situations where I can't see why this film didn't take a little bit more risk with what it was given kind of thing. Funny enough, a lot of the film is just a lot of dialogue and a lot of sitting around and walking around this asylum while the inmates kind of just go do their own thing, and there are some terrifying moments, don't get me wrong. I just wish there was more terrifying moments and especially more brutal moments. Maybe that just says a little bit too much about my own psyche, doesn't it? And then we end off this film with a little bit of a twist and ambiguity where it starts to play off in a little bit of a sense where we wonder if George is actually insane himself. And there's a moment where the film kind of bookends itself with the opening scene and starting to give us a little bit of clues where it might be actually George, the main character, who might be going through some mental struggles and mental illness, and we see environments change. And I do have mixed feelings, I'll put that in the forefront, about how this film concluded in its final 10 seconds kind of thing, where George opens up a refrigerator and he basically sees a bunch of inmates in there, and then he says, "They got in," and the final line of the film is, "They got inside, they got in, they got in," and then it just cuts to black, which leaves a lot of ambiguity. And I like a film that makes me think after the final credits roll. I like a film that makes me go, huh, not sure if I got that exactly, but huh. I'll need to watch that again. Because you know what? A film that makes me want to watch the film again is never a bad film. Now, I gave this film 2 out of 5 stars for now, and I definitely want to be rewatching this film. Like I said, I think this film had a premise that could have been executed to astronomical levels. And it just decided to scratch the surface with its topics and its themes. And I just really, really wanted to see a little bit more, especially from a script by S. Craig Zahler. And you never know, where the problem lies, because a film like this probably had a lot of, ideas and suggestions behind it through the production team, the director, of course, the writer, of course. But in no way am I criticizing the film at all. I just wish there was a little bit more, especially in the violence department, because, as I mentioned, in that final act, things get brutal. Just not brutal enough with what they had to work with. You know what I mean? You know when someone's given $1 million and they decide to buy a Ford? Asylum Blackout, with Richard Brake involved and S. Craig Zahler, and a mental asylum filled with crazy people, you could have done so much with that concept. And I guess I'm just a really greedy son of a bitch, aren't I? I still had fun with it. It's fine. It's a 2 out of 5, which is, according to my scores, actually a very good score. I consider this movie very good. Subscribe to Morgan Film Fan if you'd like to listen to my voice or if you like my film reviews. I will be back with more soon. It's 31 Days of Horror. Stay tuned for what's coming. Check out what's on the channel already, and until next review, have a good one. Take care and cheers.